season. This one we're going to be mostly focusing on the data curation process and how you use the data curation inside of DesignSafe and all the tools. So first off, for those of you who are new to DesignSafe, welcome. Secondly, let me give you a little bit of background of what it is we're trying to do. All right, so DesignSafe is a cyber infrastructure. All right, so this is a cloud-hosted environment. And what we're trying to do, or what our vision is that this infrastructure will be an integral and dynamic part of your research. So the idea is we want to be able to give you a place to go for you to load your data, to give you a set of tools, to give you a place where you can do some data analysis, give you an environment to do some custom programming, some custom scripting, and allow you guys to be able to essentially do your domain research. So we want to give you a bunch of cloud-based tools that support your analysis. We want to be able to give you cloud-based tools that allow you to visualize your data. And we want to be able to integrate a diverse data type collection. So we don't want to be essentially pigeonholing you into a certain data format or a certain data style or a certain data model. We want to be able to allow you guys to be able to open it up to whatever is best fits your science and best fits your workflow. We also want to support the end-to-end research cycle. What we mean there is everything from...
Somebody can't hear the audio. Me home. Okay.
Okay, I'm getting a message here saying somebody can't hear the audio. If you could please make sure that your speaker is muted. Can everybody else hear me okay though? Okay, fantastic. We're getting a lot of yeses. Good. All right, so the way these webinars usually work, let me go ahead and fill you in here. If you notice, there is a chat button inside of the webinar, and I see a lot of you guys using it. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in there and ask any questions you have. We have some people here at TAC who are monitoring these chat channels, be able to answer any questions you might have. All right, thank you very much. Please hope you were able to hear the audio coming up. So what we're trying to do is support the end-to-end research cycle. So everything from conception to analysis to data collecting and also collaborating, and then finally publication and curating and publishing. We want to be able to encompass that entire data life cycle on the cloud. And that is what our goal is with DesignSafe. To enhance, amplify, and also link the capabilities of other NHERI components. Okay, so the way we have this visualized is we have essentially three sections. We have the simulation research, we have experimental research, and we have the rapid research. We want all of those to live together inside of DesignSafe, inside what we call the data depot. The data depot is where all the data essentially comes and resides. And then through the data depot, we have a thing called the discovery workspace, which we talked about last week, which essentially allows you to integrate with that data. That's where all your tools are located at. But the data depot is that is where your important information resides. And that is where we need to get your data into. Okay, so first off, DesignSafe, where to get help, how to get started. If you go to our website, DesignSafe-CI.org, you'll notice on the top left there is a help button. If you click on that help, there are some user guides, there is a getting started videos, and there is a frequently asked questions. Feel free to submit a ticket there, or submit a ticket, and we'll be able to answer those tickets as they come up. Above there is the login page, and that's essentially where you log into the site. I assume everybody here has the DesignSafe access. If you don't, please go through the frequently asked questions and get yourself signed up and get yourself on a DesignSafe. Okay, so one of the things that we're really trying to do with DesignSafe is we're trying to build a community. So to build a community, we have to have a place for that community to interact and to chat. So what we have built is what we're using is a software package called Slack. We're using a software package called Slack. What Slack allows us to do is it gives us a communication tool. It is divided into teams, and it is divided into channels, and then these channels can be divided into threads. Everybody should have gotten a DesignSafe, everybody should have gotten a link, an invitation to the DesignSafe Slack channel. Please, I really encourage you to sign up for DesignSafe or the Slack channel where you can communicate with us. We have a lot, it's been very active, especially as of late with some of the natural hazards. What's very interesting about DesignSafe in particular, or with our channel in particular, some of the user groups that we have. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the DesignSafe Slack channel to just give a little brief introduction of what kind of conversations are happening. So we're going to go ahead and share the Jupyter DesignSafe community. So here, yeah, this is the website. I actually do suggest you download the application and onto your phone or onto your computer. It gives you a lot more capabilities. But really quick, DesignSafe, when you log in, we have a bunch of channels. Channels are along the left, and we have our main chat window. One of the channels we have is Jupyter, so if you have any questions about Jupyter, any questions regarding training, you can come in here and you can ask questions and such. This is fully monitored by TAC staff, it's fully monitored by our support staff, and we're always there to answer any questions. But I want to show you some of the interesting stuff that's been going on with the latest hurricanes, Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma, and some of the photographs and information that have been on those channels. So here's the Hurricane Harvey recon site. So we have recon teams in the locations, and what they've done is they have posted their images of some of the pictures they've taken, some of the measurements they've taken, the maps. They've given a great story and iterative on what they're seeing, what kind of damage they're seeing, what kind of water levels they've seen, the pictures of the teams, and what kind of damage has been seen, and the maps of the areas. We also have that information and a very active channel is the Hurricane Irma channel. Same thing, giving us narratives, giving us photographs, measurements, and all that such. And it's actually a really nice tool that they've been using to be able to communicate with the rest of the team and with the rest of the team here at DesignSafe. So I do encourage you to sign up for Slack and take that invitation, go to the DesignSafe Slack channel, and interact with the rest of the teams. There's also a webinar channel for this particular webinar about about data creation. Right here at webinar data creation. Feel free to join this channel after this webinar. You can ask any other questions, and the support staff here at TAC will be happy to answer them. All right, so. Okay, so one thing is cool, but Slack is more than just a communication tool. It's also a handy personal assistant tool. So you can do a slash remind me at a certain time and a certain message, and you'll get a remind message at that time to do a certain job, and you'll get a notification for it. I also do to-do lists. You can do a slash to-do and assign yourself a task, and it'll let you know, keep a good running total of what kind of task you've done. You can star messages for follow-ups. You can do team-wide searches in the bar. You can do searches for a particular topic, particular keyword. And you can also set up notifications for those topics and keywords. And of course, you can also do animated GIFs, which are just kind of fun. But like I said before, after the presentation's over, we'll continue the conversation on Slack, so feel free to join us there. All right, so as we continue on, let me give you a little bit about what we're looking at. So we're going to be interacting with the data depot. So the data depot is where the data curation cycle begins and essentially gets followed up and ends. We want to discover, we want to publish, we want to share, we want to upload data, we want to download data, we want to collaborate. All that happens within the data depot. Essentially what it is, it's a data repository in kind of a file format, a file view kind of format. You'll see a list of files, a list of folders where you can add new folders, add new files, upload folders, upload files. enter it, essentially be able to share folders, collaborate, and basically this is where your research cycle is. So first thing we need to do is figure out how to get your data to DesignSafe. If you have a small number of files, say under 25 files, and about, say, 100 megabytes worth of data, feel free to use the DesignSafe Data Depot directly to bring your files in. If you have files sitting on your machine, you can actually set up a sync to box.com and dropbox.com. Now, once you get that sync set up, you'll then have to go into the Data Depot and copy those folders and those files from box.com and dropbox.com and bring those into DesignSafe. If you're dealing with a large number of files, say over 25 files, say over 100 megabytes of files, we suggest you use Globus. All right, so Globus is a tool. Has a graphical user interface and allows you to drag files from one location to another location. If you have, for more information, please go to globus.org or check out the Globus Data Transfer Guide, both of which links are on this slide. By the way, this slide presentation will be available at the end of the webinar, and you'll be able to download the slides and follow the links, and also rewatch the video in case you need to. If you're comfortable with the command line and you're more comfortable with the command line interface, you can use rsync and SCP. Once again, look at the man pages on those to be able to figure out how those actually work. But yeah, those are also described in the user guide, and you'll be able to use SCP and secure copy files from your local machine to DesignSafe without going through the interface. Okay, so some of the pieces of the Data Depot. This is kind of what the Data Depot looks like. The first thing you see is My Data. My Data is essentially a place for your data. That's where your data goes, your folders, your experiments, your projects, your scripts. Everything that requires for you to do your research goes there into the My Data location. There's also a thing called My Projects. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. My Projects essentially is a place for you to collaborate. It's a collection of files, collection of folders that you've been given access to. You can also create projects and invite other people to collaborate with on these projects. Projects are allowed to grow, so they can grow as big as you need. This is also the first step to getting your data curated and published, which is what we'll be talking about later in this webinar. Finally, we have published data. So when your data gets curated, gets public, and is ready for publication, this is where it goes. Published data is a repository for all data publicly available on DesignSafe. Once you publish the data, it becomes publicly available, and anyone can come into DesignSafe, access the published data, and view and search the data without having a DesignSafe account. So, in a quick summary, the Data Depot is where your data collection begins, and this is where the data curation begins. And with that, I'm going to introduce Craig Jansen. Craig Jansen is he's our expert in the user experience, and he has come up with a very easy to follow guide to take you through the data creation process. So with that, I'm going to hand off the webinar to Craig.
Thank you, Charlie. Stop sharing, and I'll share my screen now. A couple of slides to start us off with. So what is data curation? If you've ever been to NHERI before, you know that it was somewhat of a failure because it was so hard to discover and navigate people's projects. So now we want to make a big emphasis in DesignSafe organizing data so it's easy to discover and navigate when it's published. It's very important because we have so many different types of simulations, experiments, hybrid simulations being done by various researchers across the country in different manners. They have large repositories of data, and they can be very complex with many different files and many relationships between the different files. We've sent out some of our team to the experimental facilities and to meet with the people that do simulations, and they have worked with them, gotten requirements from them, and really watched how they work and created what we call data models to represent their work. So we have the experimental people, the simulation people, hybrid simulation people, and then our other data model is kind of a bare bones data model that encapsulates whatever we missed. And so data model, we have specific categories for different types of files, and we have a lot of vocabulary and special terminology that we use to represent the way the researcher might view their data. Some things to keep in mind. The interface we're about to show you is designed to work in parallel with your project from the beginning. We hope that people do not rush this project curation, and that they start it immediately when they start their project, and that this curation progress lasts as long as the project does, and you come in, you work on little bits at a time, you tell a team member, hey, can you go work on categorizing these files? I'll explain what that means in a second. And so you're not waiting to the last minute to make this all curated. And also, quick note for now, do not wait in the last, if you're going to be using our projects, do not wait to the last minute to request a DOI. We want to make sure that we get that for you because that's probably one of the most important parts of this project. Another big part is working together. That's one of the biggest parts of DesignSafe. You have other team members that you're going to add to your project, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And everyone can have a different role. The PI can assign different roles to certain people, and everyone can kind of work on it together. It's a collaborative space. And each of these features can be worked on independently. So working on experiments, editing the metadata, the descriptions, proofreading, making sure everything looks right, can be all worked on independently so no one's work messes up someone else's work. If you have any questions during this presentation, ask on Zoom chat. Maria Esteva, our data curator, will answer your questions to her best ability. I also want to emphasize what you get by publishing with DesignSafe. You get everything in one place. You get the applications for analysis and simulations that you use and will publish, and you'll have analysis reports through Jupyter Notebooks. You get all that here on HPC machines. You get collaboration with your peers. You get lots of storage. You get to easily find other people's data, and people get to easily find your data. And you also get a lot of support. We're here Monday through Friday. There is a huge team on DesignSafe. You can reach us via Slack, as Charlie emphasized, via the ticket system, and we also have a new email link, curation@DesignSafe-CI.org, and that'll put you in contact with Maria, and she will help you out. Also, it is a work in progress. The experimental data model and project is finished. We're currently working on simulation and hybrid. If you need to publish something immediately, just because you want a DOI for some data, use other for now. Help us improve on Slack. We want to hear your feedback. If you have harsh criticisms, we want to hear them. Don't hold back. There's a separate channel just for this, these features. Go on there, tell us what you think. And you can definitely influence how this looks in the end. Also, participate in our user testing. We take UX very seriously now here at TAC, and we have hired some usability contractors to work with. You might have seen some emails in the past from Donna at forkitchens.com. She will be doing some user testing of this project interface eventually. And there will be an incentive for your time. Those will probably be 40, 45 minutes to an hour, and so we want you to care, and so we'll be giving you an incentive for your time. And with that, let me start the live demo. So first of all, I want to show you some already published projects. This is one that Ellen Rathje published. So this is kind of the result of the work that I'll be showing you. So if this is a cooking show, this is me showing you the finished product, and then I'll show you how to cook the project. So at the top, we have all our project metadata. We have the description of the entire project, project ID, date of publication, a DOI, a quick and easy way to get a citation, the PI listed at the top. You can see team members, co-PIs. You can see pretty much all the information in a condensed format and some extra project metadata, some keywords and stuff. And these keywords help us search for your project in our search functionality. Going down, we get to the meat of the project. These are the experiments. So we have this huge experiment section, and we have experiment metadata here. We have the description, date of publication of this specific experiment, the DOI for this specific experiment, the EF used, the experiment type, equipment type, authors for this experiment, a separate citation for this experiment, and a report attached to it. With each of these experiments, what we care about first and foremost is the event data. So this is the raw meat, this is the data you get when you run your experiment, and this is the raw files. So we have this right up front. We have her files right here, and what we call these events. And we have links by each of the events to the model configuration. So click on that, it's going to bring you to the bottom and open up the files, the model configuration that led to that event. Model configurations are pictures of the model, setups of the model that you tested on, that you shook, that you spun around a centrifuge. Sensor information is information about the sensors, where they're placed, their sensitivity, a list of the sensors, yada yada. Also here on the left, we have this nice tree. Ellen's tree is fairly simple. She has one model configuration, one sensor in this experiment. And then she has all these events attached to this one model configuration and this one sensor. If she used a different model configuration for a different set of events, she would see a second tree spawning off of this experiment and events coming off of that. And this is also a good way to, in the future, like I said, this is a work in progress. We're going to add navigation to this, so you can bring this up and you can click on this event down here. This will close and bring you down to that. So these are works in progress. I'll show you one more project here. Here we have data at the top. This person chose not to put everything in a folder, rather to just have all the files listed out. 2 events for their one experiment. And we will expect people to publish multiple experiments at one time, and it's set up for that functionality. So let me go over and show you how people are making these projects. So here I have a project. Well, first of all, I should not skip ahead. Let's go to Add. And we have this button here called New Project. All right. Now here's how you create a brand new project. If you all want to follow along, you're welcome to. If you encounter any troubles, remember, ask in the chat window. Here you can add a project title, PI, award number. Now we talked about the different data models and how some are finished, some are not finished. Here's where you select them. So experimental and other are finished. We're working on simulation next. This should be up soon. So your entire project is basically tailored on this choice. Specific dictionary, vocabulary, categories are tailored to your project based on your choice here. You can link to associated projects, add the keywords that we saw, add a description. And you can come back to this window later, at a later time. It only requires 2 pieces of information now to start out the project. But you can come back to this at a later time, and I'll show that in a second. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to create a brand new one right now. I already have one. I already filled out that form, and I created a new one. So here, the description. Well, here's the edit project. So this is the same window with some metadata filled in. I can go back to this. I can change some of this information. And this description, all this project data appears here at the top. You can see this here. Now I want to point out a couple key buttons here. We have the Categorize button. This is very important. We have these 2 directories. We have the working directory and the publication preview. We toggle between these 2. We have Edit Project, which I just showed you, Manage Team Members, and Manage Experiments. So through these buttons is how we're going to get all our work done. I went ahead and created an experiment over here in Manage Experiments earlier, and let me show you that. So in Manage Experiments, you create your experiments, like these experiments here, and you add the metadata. So I created one here, and I'll show you how I made that. I hit Add Experiment. I entered in the title, which you can see listed right here. I entered in the facility, which I chose from a list. So Center for Geotechnical Modeling. So since the person chose experimental facility, this is why we have all this vocabulary and things for you to choose from. So if I choose Center for Geotechnical Modeling, then I see centrifuge is the only type of experiment done there. And the equipment type is either a 9mm radius centrifuge or 1 radius centrifuge, not millimeter. And you can see once you enter the description, the equipment type, and you hit save experiment, all this data goes up here to the top. And it's listed here. You can edit this at a later time, or you can delete them. And this is how you manage your experiments in here. Also at the bottom here, we'll get to this in a bit. We're going to go over categories next, and just keep this in mind. This is where you're going to relate your categories to these experiments. So you can see this experiment I created earlier is already listed here, ready to go. And here's where we're going to create that tree that you saw earlier. So we'll get to that in a second. First, I'm going to categorize some files. So I'm going to start with creating a model configuration category and assign some files to that. So deep in this folder here, I have some pictures of our model. I'm going to select those using Control to select multiple pictures at once. And I'm going to go here and hit Categorize. Now I can see each of these files that I just selected here, and they are unassigned to a category. And here's my inventory of categories. I have no categories created yet. We're going to create one right now. So I'm going to click Add Category, select Model Configuration. We'll call this Model Sketches. We're going to save the category. Now I can see that these are not unassigned anymore. They are now this category. They are now categorized. And you can see this now appears in my inventory. And that's helpful because I can come back and reuse that later. So once I close this, let's say there's another picture in here that I forgot to assign to that category. We'll go click on it. We'll click Categorize. Oh, here's the category I created. I'm going to click Model Sketches. I'm going to click Assign to Files and see the selected category. And now that one is also part of that same category. I'm going to go back to the root of my working directory. And next, we're going to categorize some sensor info. So I have this one file right here that's going to be my sensor information. I'm going to categorize that. We'll click Sensor Info. We'll call this List of Sensors. Save that category. Great. Now I can see it's assigned, and I see that reflected here. Now over in Publication Preview, I can go check on how my work is progressing over in this window. This is the Publication Preview. This gives you peace of mind of what your project will look like when it's finally published. You can't do any editing in this area. You can simply view how your work is coming along and how it looks based on how you've categorized things and how you've related those categories to experiments. So down here at the bottom, I can see, oh, here we go. My model configuration files that I categorized earlier are listed right here, and same with my sensor information file that I just categorized. Right, now listed here it says this experiment has no events. Events are the meat of our project. Let's go categorize those real quick. So we'll start with our fast data from the centrifuge. Grab 4 of these files. Won't do them all for right now, in the case of time. Quick note, you can also categorize a folder, and anything in that folder will all become part of that category. So that can be a quick way to categorize a lot of files at one time. I prefer to go into the folder and just categorize them all at once. So here's my event. There's no categories here, so I'm going to add a category. This is an event. We'll call this fast data. I'll save that. Great, and that's listed, reflected here. Go back to my root directory. Great. Now, if I go over to publication preview, it still says this experiment has no events. Well, why is that? That's because I haven't related this experiment to those that fast data that I just created. And while these are listed below, if you see over here, it says link to model configuration sensor list. We don't have that yet in our experiment description. So that means that these are not related to this experiment up here. So let's do that real quick. We're going over to working directory again. Remember this manage experiments button? We're going to click on that. And down here we have this tree that we're working on. So here we have the experiment. And the first step is to add a model configuration. So we're going to click this. And here's that model sketches category that I created. We're going to save that. And then next, it prompts you for sensor information. List of sensors. That's the category we created earlier. Save that. And we're going to add an event, the fast data we just created and assign those files to. Save that. There we go. Also, quick note. Some people like to come in here and add categories and relate them to the tree without categorizing or assigning files to categories yet, and that's fine. Some people have different ways of doing things. So you can go add category right here. You can create a random category. Let's create a model configuration real quick. Model sketches 2. Save that, and you will immediately see that appear right up here, and you can add that. So people can create this whole tree without assigning the files specifically, and then they go assign the files. So it's whatever order you want. We've seen input from various features just saying one likes one way, another likes the other way, so we leave the option open to you. So I see in this tree now, I have model configuration, sensor list, and event data tied to this experiment. Now, those are tied or related. I'm going to go over to publication preview. Give it a second for the files to load. And here, I can see that this event data is now linked to this experiment. On the left, I have that same tree we just worked on. And down here, I have the model configuration. So if I click on link to model configuration, it'll link to the specific one that it is tied to. Bring it down, expand it, and then you can close it again. Same as sensor list right here. You can see this file. So we hope in this way people can easily find their files. Let's go ahead and just for reinforcing some points here, let's create one more event and related to this same experiment. So I have the slow data, and instead of going and assigning to those files first, I'm going to do it the roundabout way here. I'm going to add a category. I'm going to add an event. We'll call this slow data. Save category. Oh, it's listed right there. Click that and click save. Perfect. Now I'm going to go into slow data and assign that category to some files. Click on these 4 files, click categorize. And I see the slow data event that I just created in a different window appearing right here. I'll click on that, select the category event slow data, edit it again right here, and click assign to files. Awesome. Now go over to publication preview, and I can see that both of these events are now related to this same experiment. Keep in mind when you make this tree, that this tree is designed for a lot of different structures of experiments. So if I added another experiment, or I'm sorry, if I added different model configuration per series of events, I could add that here. and then have a different list of sensors, and then a different list of events, all under the same experiment. So a couple other things to go over. Let's go over to publication preview. Again, this is to give you peace of mind of how your project will look. I can see all the data up here for the project. I can see myself as listed as the PI. I can see where the DOI and data publication will be listed, when it's published. There's also some learn more links here to the YouTube videos to emphasize some of the things I'm talking about. Oh, it looks like I checked publication preview and it looks like no authors are listed for this experiment. So let's fix that. Let's go over to working directory again. Let's go to manage team members. Let me try that again. So that's not working right now. We'll get back to that. We'll check back on that in a second. Let's go over to publication preview. And let's say that I assign those authors there. And let's say everything looks like how I would want it to look. Let me try refreshing the page real quick and see if that brings up some of the data. Looks like I was randomly maybe logged out. Give me a second. All right, folks, hang with me. It looks like I was logged out accidentally. It happens sometimes. I'll get back into it in just a second. And if you have any, in the meantime, while we're waiting for this to spin up, if you have any questions, please go to the chat section and ask them.
Yeah, I asked. I told you.
People are covering pretty well.
Can someone check the database?
Yeah, there we go. See if this light authentication issue.
This is where I insert some joke about doing a live demo.
One thing you have to realize with the DesignSafe infrastructure is that this entire thing is cloud-based. What we have behind the scenes is a series of virtual machines and a series of resources, including our tax computer Stampede 2, that really runs the behind-the-scenes operations. Essentially what you're doing is when you're asking for a certain job to be done, is you're sending a message to the queue, and you're asking the queue to then run a certain job. So essentially what sometimes happens is a message might get lost in the queue, so to speak. So we'll see if we can get ourselves logged back in here and get ourselves going again. Also, of course, we can hit the Slack channel and ask our development team if there's an issue going on with one of our machines.
I'm in.
Okay, you're able.
Cool.
You're able to log back in. Fantastic.
So going back to the data depot, like Charlie's always mentioning, here's my files. This is stuff I can only see. I'm going to go over to my projects. Here is the project we created earlier. That reminds me, one thing I want to show real quick is moving files into this project. You can move files from box.com, Dropbox.com, and My Data into your project. So I'm going to go over to My Data real quick. And I'm going to move a file, an analysis file, a Jupyter Notebook file into my project. So I'm going to select the file. This is in My Data, my own personal directory. I'm going to click Move. I'm going to select my projects. I'm going to select the project we were just working on by name. I'm inside of it, and I'm going to click Move To. And give that a second. Like Charlie said, that job is being sent and submitted. I'm going to go over back to my projects and cover some more stuff for y'all. Except project and the listing. Great. Got a notification here in the bottom left. That file has been moved. Here it is right here. Real quick, this is an analysis. I'm going to categorize this as an analysis, which is another category. I'm going to have to add that category because it didn't create it before. Select analysis. Call this Jupyter.
I think that those can be also
Notebook.
used to move things out.
We're going to save that. Close that, go over to publication preview, confirm that it's there. It'll appear in a second. There it is. If I had a description for the analysis, it would have appeared here. And further functionality is going to have us be able to relate an analysis to various events within your project and reference events and data outside of your project to different projects. But real quick, getting back on track to where we were, we're talking about authorship. So if I went over here and saw there are no authors assigned to this experiment, let's fix that. Go back to working directory, click on Manage Team Members. And here we have a list of the PI, which is there can only be one PI. He does not share power. And co-PIs. And then members below all that. So I'll add Charlie as a member. And let's add Maria as a collaborator. And we'll save those people. Here they are listed. And here, this button over here, this is assign authorship. So you bring down this window. And let's say Charlie works on that experiment. So we're going to select that experiment and assign authorship. And we're going to say the settings. And let's also assign Maria to the same one.
So he should not get into. It also is not to get into here.
Great. Give it a second, and those authors should appear right here. Give the database a second. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over and show you prepare to publish. So let's say this is all looking how I would like it to look. I proofread everything. I've double check with PI, professors. I like how it all looks. I'm going to go over to prepare to publish and get ready to publish my project. So we have kind of a wizard to get you through all this. Here I can see the experiment. Nothing is selected for publication right now, notified by the red X, but I can toggle that to green. So I can select individual files of a certain experiment that I want to publish or do the entire event category at once. Same down here for specific for the model configuration listings. Also, this is helpful. This deselect all. If you had multiple experiments, so we had a second experiment down below here, and you wanted to just publish one experiment from this project, you could do that by deselecting whatever experiment you didn't want to publish and selecting all the experiment you did want to publish. So you can select between the different experiments. Once I selected the files that I want to publish, I'm going to go over here to review. That shows you what it looks like with only the things you selected. And then I'm going to go over here again, and it gives you last chance to edit any metadata, so you can do some more proofreading. This is just all metadata that we use to help search for your project. That'll be included in your citation, yada yada. You can come here and just double check it one last time and edit it. And then last, we have an agreement. We have some licenses to protect your data. We have some that we recommend and some other more general licenses that you can apply to your data, your publication. And you can select those. You can read more about those on the license website. And finally, at the bottom, we have an agreement that says, I understand that when I press this button up here, request DOI and publish, that I am basically turning the two keys to launch the nuclear missiles, and that there's no turning back. Once this is published, you can't reverse it. And so we really want some precaution around that area, which is why we have this agreement at the end. And yeah, so exit publishing. That's pretty much all there is for now. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the Slack channel. If you have registered or have an account in DesignSafe, then you have been sent an invitation to Slack. We make sure that every new person that signs up for DesignSafe is sent an invitation to the Slack. Please get on there, give your input. We need to hear use cases from you, because that's how we make change happen. Thank you all. I'll turn it over to Charlie to maybe close this out.
Sure. Sharing screen. All right. Thanks very much, Craig. That was actually really useful, even helpful to me. Once again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to jump on the Slack channel and ask us those questions there. Of course, you can all, there's two channels right now we have. We have questions for this webinar directly at hashtag webinar data curation. For general questions about use of DesignSafe, there's hashtag general. You can also email us at training@DesignSafe-CI.org, or feel free to fill out a help ticket. If you have any other general questions, feel free to hit the help menu option on DesignSafe proper. Finally, there's a list of people who are involved in this project right now who helped us put this webinar together. So I'd like to thank them. The next webinar will be announced soon. It'll be probably near the end of October, and we will be talking about the field reconnaissance data and how to get that data into DesignSafe and what tools we have available to do field reconnaissance work. With that, if you have any questions, feel free to hit us on Zoom. We'll be keeping the Zoom channel open for the next 10 minutes or so and answer any questions you have. Once again, thank you very much for joining us here, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.